This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Well, Donald Trump has added to his criminal defense team not one, but two new lawyers. We've spoken about Joe Tacopina. Joe Tacopina, former Bronx prosecutor and a defender of various celebrity types over the years, including Jay-Z and A-Rod, has been representing Donald Trump in the E. Jean Carroll case. Alina Habba is officially or unofficially sidelined from all the cases. I guess Donald Trump didn't like what happened to him in his deposition when E. Jean Carroll in the civil rape case took his deposition, and Alina Habba took the deposition of E. Jean Carroll. That didn't go well, nor did the $1 million sanction against Donald Trump and Alina Habba down in Florida related to the filings there against Hillary Clinton. So Alina Habba, I can report, has been officially sidelined. She is no longer the lead lawyer for any of these criminal matters, especially. I think it's a combination of Joe Tacopina and Tim Parlator. Tim Parlator, write that name down. Remember that name. You're going to be seeing a lot more of him in the coming months, especially as the Department of Justice and others move closer to prosecution. How does Donald Trump know Tim Parlator? Tim represented former Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher, who was indicted in a military court for the execution improperly under war powers and under war crimes laws of a 17-year-old ISIS fighter and posing with his body. Now, Eddie Gallagher was eventually given clemency by Donald Trump, and his lawyer in that process was Tim Parlator, who Donald Trump has privately referred to as a killer and a big warrior, which are big compliments apparently in Trump world for a lawyer that's going to do Donald Trump's bidding. Tim Parlator has an interesting career. He was in the Navy himself. He's been with various mid-tier firms, if you will, throughout New York. He currently claims to run a cloud-based law firm. I've been doing this for 32 years. I'm not even sure what that is. I think what he means is he's got a bunch of people virtually around the country that he claims to be in partnership with, but they don't really have a real firm. It's all up in the cloud. So how do I know that Tim Parlator is the new or one of the new major criminal lawyers along with Joe Tacopina? Because he's the guy that took to the Sunday morning talk shows this weekend after reports came out that the Department of Justice, getting more intelligence and more intel, that there was another piece of classified material in Donald Trump's bedroom in Mar-A-Lago. In this case, the evening briefing folder, classified evening briefing folder when he was president. They subpoenaed it by name, and it was finally turned over. And the explanation that Tim Parlator, first time on national TV for his client Donald Trump, tried out, was the following: that Donald Trump has a landline phone in his room, and I guess Grandpa Trump can't figure out how to put something over the blue light that comes off of the phone. I mean, we've all done this in hotel rooms. You put a pillow on it, you put a magazine on it. Well, I guess if you're the president or former president of the United States, you put a folder that's marked classified national evening briefing materials, and you use that to cover the light. I mean, my eyebrows just went up. You can imagine the eyebrows that went up on the news team that was interviewing Parlator. But this is the story they're going with. Oh no, it's an innocent explanation. Trump just uses the folder to cover up the nightlight in the room. I mean, this is basically what they're going with. But the more important part of the story is that Tim Parlator is being tried out by Trump. Trump having obviously lost his confidence, if he ever had it, in Alina Habba and her ability, I guess her unique quality to really say anything and do anything on behalf of Donald Trump. Even that had its limitations. And now we're not going to really see her in the civil rape case that's being defended, that goes to trial in April in the Manhattan federal court. That's going to be now tried and defended by Joe Tacopina, who came in just 2 or 3 weeks ago, really at the tail end, taking over the case for trial purposes. And Tim Parlator looks like he's going to be, along with Joe, one of the lead criminal defense lawyers that we're going to see now moving forward, especially as the Department of Justice gets closer to an indictment in the Mar-A-Lago case and in the other cases around. Evan Corcoran had served in that role, but we've already reported that last week Evan Corcoran got himself a new gift from Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, the gift of having to go into the grand jury and testify against your client, also related to Mar-A-Lago. So Evan Corcoran kind of tied up right now. Press 1 if you need a new criminal defense lawyer. And Donald Trump went with Tim Parlator, who he met when Tim represented Eddie Gallagher, who Trump gave clemency to after a military court convicted him of at least one count of illegally posing with a corpse. He got off on the murder charge, but he did sustain that conviction. And that's where Trump learned about this guy and said, that's the guy for me. And Parlator has been, if you look at the list of clients he's had, it's right out of the MAGA playbook. He's represented Bernie Kerik, the disgraced former police chief in New York, who's also, he had his own sort of tax and fraud problems independent from Donald Trump, but then became a lead witness, including being interviewed at the Jan 6 committee and by the grand jury related to the insurrection and Trump's actions to avoid the peaceful transfer of power to Joe Biden. So you got Bernie Kerik represented by Tim Parlator. He also represented Doug Mastriano, the also disgraced candidate in Pennsylvania for Senate. He eventually lost in the primary to Dr. Oz. And of course, Dr. Oz lost to Fetterman. But, this is one of the lawyers of choice. I could name about 4 or 5 of them. You've got people in California that regularly represent everybody in MAGA world and Trump world, including Harmeet Dillon, who just lost her race to be the RNC chairman or chairperson. And now you got guys like Tim Parlator and, of course, Joe Tacopina, who's got his hands tied up right now, trying a case against Robbie Kaplan, the acclaimed trial lawyer who is prosecuting the case on behalf of E. Jean Carroll in the Southern District of New York. So that's the reporting. We've got this BS story about Trump using the subpoenaed classified documents folder to cover up a light on his phone in his bedroom. I mean, that barely passes the straight face test. But it was also a test to take Tim Parlator around the block and see how he does being somebody on national TV and defending the president. And so he was trotted out this weekend to defend him and kind of float that trial balloon and see how that did. It didn't do very well. But we're going to be hearing a lot more of Tim Parlator as the noose tightens around Donald Trump, as the investigations come to their conclusion, both in Georgia and in New York, primarily in the Manhattan DA's office. You've got Manhattan DA's office close to indicting on Stormy Daniels through a special grand jury that's been impaneled in the last month. You've got Fani Willis, whose silence has been deafening since she appeared in court last month and said indictments of multiple defendants were imminent. Expect something likely in February or March from her. New York attorney, Manhattan DA, sometime probably over the summer, while Trump tries these multiple cases around the country on the civil case, including October 2nd, going to trial on the case that really could put him under and give him the corporate equivalent of the death penalty, including all of his finances, the $250 million civil fraud case against him brought by the New York Attorney General. It's not just the $250 million, which maybe he can scrounge up from his various, pieces of equity and real estate around the country and around the world, but it is the other powers that she has, the New York Attorney General, to shut him down permanently as an operating businessman, and 16 other people involved with the Trump organization as well. So we'll report and watch to see if Tim Parlator makes an appearance in that case, at least in the second chair position, maybe not the lead trial lawyer, but in the second chair position, because they're going to need a lead trial lawyer in that case. And I predict it's either going to be Tim Parlator or Joe Tacopina to try that civil fraud case against the New York Attorney General, Alina Habba, and Evan Corcoran, having taken themselves out of the running as being radioactive because they got way too close to their own clients' criminality. This is Michael Popok, Legal AF reporting.
The best part of waking up? MAGA Tears in my cup. Check out the new MAGA Tears mug available now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com. It's 100% union made right here in the USA. I know I'm not tired of winning yet. How about you? Get yours today.